Staff and politicians at Queen's Park are abuzz with speculation that Premier Doug Ford will call an early election. Well, there are several signs that Ford wants to send Ontarians to the polls before the next scheduled election in June of 2026. Well, some say the government's fast tracking of several bills is an indication it wants to clear the legislative decks before a spring election. Others point to the year-end deadline Ford gave his caucus members to decide if they'll run for re-election. Well, there's also the more than $103 million spent on government ads in the last fiscal year, more than 3 times the year before. Well, joining us live now with more on the growing speculation of an early election is CTV political commentator Scott Reid. Always great to chat, Scott. Given all those indications and things that I just mentioned, what's your take on this? You think he'll call an early election?
Oh, I think we're going to get the strangest Christmas present under the tree this year, Ontario voters. I think Premier Ford is going to deliver an election probably at the end of February for early April. And you laid out a whole ton of clues, Jamie. I'll give you 2 more. Polls in Ontario and polls federally. The polls federally show that the Prime Minister is running 20 to 25 points behind. What does that mean? It means that there's a reasonable fear that notwithstanding his protests that he was going to stay in place, at some point he might quit. Doug Ford doesn't want to run against anyone other than Justin Trudeau. He doesn't want to run against Pierre Poilievre. He doesn't want to run against Marit Stiles. He doesn't want to run against Bonnie Crombie. He wants to run against the least popular politician in the country. He wants to run against Justin Trudeau. And if he's going to do it, he's got to get it in quick. Second poll number that we should pay attention to, the Premier's own numbers, running about 43%. And the opposition is dead even split between the Liberals and the NDP. Liberals running around 25, NDP at 21. That is the perfect recipe for a majority re-election campaign. And the Premier wants to bank that result before there's any chance it could go away. Well,
you've been a strategic advisor and a political advisor. I mean, it seems that all the signs are there that there's blood in the water. So does it just make sense to pounce while all of these ducks are in a row?
Here's the risk. Here's the risk, and it's not to be turned your back on. The risk is that voters will conclude Doug Ford is calling an election very early, not because it's in their interest, but because it's in his interest. Not because he wants to do something for voters, but because he wants voters to do something for him. And that can be a cancerous logic if you're looking to get reelected. So he's got to worry about that risk. He's got to worry that he just looks like he's being self-interested. And I think for Ford, that means he's going to have to start to lay track. Maybe as early as this news conference today, when he's going to get asked about this, he's going to have to start to lay track as to why an election might be necessary. What would cause it to go to the polls? What would cause the government to go to the polls? And it can't just be because he thinks he can get reelected. That's the risk for him. But on balance, man, it looks good. And you want to strike while the iron's hot.
Well, he's also, started to delve into municipal issues that have upset, some portion of the electorate. But there are a lot of people that are fully supportive of him going in and telling Toronto, you can't put in that bike lane or you can't have that supervised drug injection site. And that's sitting well with some people. But when he starts floating around massive, huge ideas like building a tunnel under the 401, I'm wondering what's your take on this? How do you think that's going to sit with people? Because given the disaster that we've been going through with with Metrolinx and just the overall gridlock, do you think people will have the appetite for a big grand project like that?
Yeah, I think the Magic Tunnel might have been a bit of an improvisation. I'm not sure we'll hear a ton about that again. But look, whether it's picking fights with municipal leaders over safe injection sites and bike lanes, or whether it's barging into the federal agenda, talking about Trump and tariffs, I think both of those are actually clues, again, that the Premier intends to run, because both of those are issues where he thinks he can align himself with a majority of voters, at least for sure a majority of his voters. And so I look at those situations, I look at those issues, and I see hints that the Premier is trying to use those issues as justification for an election call in late February, as compared to worries that maybe he shouldn't, that these issues are divisive. I think he likes exactly how those issues play for him.
CTV political commentator Scott Reid, always great to chat, my friend. Have a great day.
Thanks, James. Take care.